You know, there are a lot of holidays that we say happy, you know, it's like happy birthday, happy anniversary, happy 4th of July, happy New Year, Merry Christmas, happy Thanksgiving. But Memorial Day is not one that we say happy Memorial Day to, is it? I normally use a lot of humor, but today I don't feel like using humor. So I had to get the humor out of the way real quick before I start this. Memorial Day, not to be confused with Veterans Day, used to be called Decoration Day. Anybody know that? Yeah, I didn't know that. I read up, and you would go to the graves of loved ones who had passed in the military and give them, you know, have lunch, have a picnic, and stuff like that. The amazing statistics, unfortunately, about those who have gone on and fought wars and didn't come back, or they came back, and, you know, is 1.3 million. That includes conflicts, wars, Civil War. You might guess which war had the highest number of casualties? Civil War. Civil War. Where they estimate a minimum of 650,000 to a maximum of 850,000 passed. The amazing thing was the United States of America wasn't that big back then. And that was 2% of the entire population of the United States died in the Civil War. You know, I grew up in the Vietnam War era. Anybody here remember draft cards? When I moved, I found my draft card. I was number 300 and something. My brother was number 100 something. He had a low number. It means you had to go. And he never went. But tomorrow's Memorial Day. Normally celebrated the last Monday in May. The amazing thing, this is going to be a kind of a short talk so I can get to as many people with messages. Is that possible? I'm sure you don't mind. The amazing thing is, out of all those losses, over 31,000 men and women who have come back have taken their own lives. And so it's a staggering, so we talk about pandemics, that's the pandemic that just kind of never stops, right? My dad was in the Navy. He fought in World War II. You take a boy from the South and put him in the Aleutian Islands. Everybody know where the Aleutian Islands are? Cold. Part of Alaska. And they used to do bombing runs over Japan. So he was a hydraulic mechanic. And sometimes the planes left, sometimes they came back, and sometimes they didn't come back. My father-in-law was in the Army in the Pacific, in the theater of the Pacific. And so, but they both made it back. I'm grateful. But I guess my point is, well, first of all, whether you're pro-military, anti-military, you really don't have an opinion. Someone once said, all that is needed for evil to exist is for men and women to do nothing, right? And so I'm thankful for the people. I'm sad for the ones that didn't come back. One of these days, my goal is to go make it to the Vietnam Memorial. I think it's in Washington, D.C. I've never been to Washington. You know, when I see somebody wearing the hat of the military, I thank them for their service. And a lot of times, sometimes I'll see a tear. Sometimes they'll say, thank you for caring. Sometimes they'll say, thank you for your support. It doesn't matter if I agree or not agree, it just matters. It's surreal when you think about it. They went to war so we could have the freedom to protest against the wars they were in. But theirs was to defend the Constitution. Do we have any veterans in the, no, that's veterans, thank you for your service. So I got two stories illustrating how our metaphysical gifts can help heal people. Number one, who are thinking about taking their own life, and number two, the ones who come back with PTSD, which back in the day, you know, wasn't really diagnosed, right? The first story, I used to do readings. Everybody know where Spiral Circle is? It's a little metaphysical shop. I used to do readings there for years after Beverly had passed. And, well, for a year, not for years. And they sold my books. I'm not here to sell my books. Thank you for mentioning it. Again, I wrote it, so I put it in there. So, you know, I came from a career in sales, right? So that never ends. And I used to put little cards with just a message that Spirit would give me inside the book. So I do this group reading in Apopka for a number of people 2 or 3 times a year. This young lady said, "You wrote the book, didn't you?" And I said, "I don't know which book you're talking about." But she said, and I showed, "Is it this one?" She said, "Yeah, it's the first one called Channeling Motion." She said, "That day, I was thinking about ending my life." And I don't know, she was heading to a place to do it. I don't know. It's been 6 or 7 years, so excuse my memory. But she said, "For some reason, I stopped Inspire Circle, and for some reason, I bought your book. And for some reason, that card spoke to me, and I decided to continue living." She, ladies and gentlemen, she was in her 20s, right? When you do this kind of work, you do run into, unfortunately, a lot of suicides. And it is an epidemic, and especially amongst young people these days. You know, and oh, and by the way, I am Catholic. By the way, in case you're concerned, I've been vaccinated and boosted many times because I've had 2 transplants, so you have to do all that stuff right. But the thing is that Spirit speaks to me as the Spirit speaks to everybody, right? And says, this is not part of the soul plan. Suicide is not part of the soul plan. You know, the Creator, infinite intelligence, God, I don't think God cares what you call God. Infinite intelligence, Yahweh, I am, the collective, the source. Well, not the collective, but the source, whatever you want to call God. And so and it wasn't me. I had no idea that this person, in fact, I don't know. Maybe I've seen her since. I don't know. My memory is just not, my cognitive is not that good. The second story I want to tell is I did a reading for a young man who came back from Iraq who had PTSD. I can't cure PTSD. You know, that's a journey, right? And no reading I can give him can cure it. But the story he told, he was in one of those Humvees. They were going through the village, they were under fire, and there was a child in the middle of the road, just like 5 or 6, just stopped. You know, wanted the vehicle to stop. And the people in the Humvee were saying, "No, go, 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 you got to go. You stop, we're all dead." And so he has to run over the child, kill the child. And so as we're doing this reading, the child steps through. I didn't know it was that child. I just said, somebody lost a child. Couldn't tell if it was a little boy or a little girl, just know somebody lost a child, right? And the child came through and said, "My job was to stop you." You know, because there was, they carry those rockets, those missiles, you know, I'm sorry, I can't think of what you call them now. And they were waiting in the wings for that Humvee to stop, so they could blow it to smithereens. And so that brought him some comfort. Did it cure his PTSD? I doubt it, but it brought him some comfort. I guess my point is, we can all use our gifts to help people. Bless you.
Thank you.
Like I said, tomorrow's Memorial Day. I'm retired, so kind of every day is like Saturday. You know, every day is like a holiday type. And so I don't recognize it as much, but I do recognize the men and the women who sacrifice and continue to sacrifice. So here's my 2 points. It's going to be real quick. A lot of people here. And thank you for coming here. This is a big crowd. I appreciate it. And no, you didn't come here to hear me talk. No. You know, I don't know much about astrology, but every time I do a group reading and I tell people I'm a Pisces, born on March 17th, and I'm married to Scorpio, they go, "Oh." So, well, I'm going to have to go home and tell her we need a divorce, even though we've been married for over 40 years. That's going to be a shock to her. So, you look at the first one. You never know when somebody's thinking about ending their life. You never know what impulse, what trigger is going to be set off, and how we can just a kind word. And it's tough in today's, You know, if you turn on the news, it's just, you know, it's just, and so we can assist those people, even if we don't know them. I think spirit and our intuition tells us to help that person. Give them a kind word, right? Second point I want to make is a story about the young man in Iraq. I look at people who wear those caps and I thank them for their service, because you never know when one of them is thinking about ending their life. I've tried to watch movies about some very realistic movies, but it never takes the place of what actually happens on the battlefield, you know. So use your gifts. Thank those people. And I'll go out of my way to thank them. And maybe the only way I know is they're wearing a cap. I'm sorry, I gotta use my humor. Here it comes. I saw somebody wearing a cap, and I thought it was a military cap. And I said, thank you for the service. To turn around, it was one of Trump's MAGA hats. He said, you're welcome. I'm like, folks, this is my life. Okay? I thought, Spirit said you can make a little humor out of it. Oh, goodness gracious. So that's really my story today. Use your gifts to help those people, help them heal. Tell your experiences. It really was a MAGA hat. Y'all know you're laughing. It really was. It's bright red, and I go, I don't recognize the service of that. Maybe it's Coast Guard. I don't know. I don't know. You know, he looked like a veteran. You know, he had the most surprised look, and then he started strutting. I'm like, oh, get over here, Steph. Come on. But look at. I look for those hats to thank them. It's all it takes is 5 seconds. And when somebody's looking at ending their life, and my son's one of his best friends, and when he went to Bishop Moore in sophomore, they had a great day the day before. He goes back the next day, and he's gone. I can't think of his name now, sorry. Just took his own life. So you never know what's going on behind. And the last thing, it is a pandemic amongst young people. It really, really is. Whether it's drugs, whether it's whatever. So that's my story. I'm sticking to it. Please, you all have gifts. Use your gifts to help heal. We don't heal the planet, a country at a time. You know, we don't. Or you know, we just do it one person at a time. Because it's the energy and the vibrations of us helping that